kinky shit happening here.
Back from the dead.
Hello everyone, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Oh Jesus, no. It's really, really nice being back here, but in front of the camera and, you know, making videos. It's nice to be back. It's good to see you. Nice to see you. So, this video was super, super requested. I do have a little notebook here, so I am reading from it. Apologies in advance. I can't read my own handwriting sometimes. So this video was super, super requested, and I felt that this would be my Christmas gift to you guys. But that's just, I don't know. So, as you can tell from the title, this is my how I figured out, or how I found out I had OSDD/DID, because titles. I should state that I am not an expert. I am actually fairly new to knowing how OSDD works, or DID, so I'm really new to this. I'd actually like to take a quick moment to thank Devin from the Ether System for, you know, being my guide and being the leader, the teacher for me, because he's the one that kind of explained what explained to me what DID OSDD means. So thank you. Alright, moment's over. Okay, so my stories may differ from others, but that's kind of to be expected since everyone's alters are different, everyone's experiences are different, everyone's systems are different. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first story I have, and the one that can be traced back, all of these stories can be traced back with the, oh, that makes sense sort of moment. So all these stories have the that makes sense now, full clarity now that I know what goes into DID OSDD. So I remember being pretty young. I think I was 8 or 9 when this happened, but I remember not exactly blacking out, but I remember, oh, there's a little fuzzy right here. We're gonna get rid of that. How long has that been there? I'm gonna, well, shit. So I remember blacking, not exactly, but blacking out for the most part for this experience with my brother. I say 8 or 9, I genuinely cannot remember the exact age, but I do remember that he was fairly young, you know, immature, yada yada, but I remember him being pretty annoying, and he was throwing stuff at me. Our parents weren't home because it was after school, so they were away. So my brother and I are the only ones that remember this. But I remember him pushing me over this edge to the point where I lifted the kid. Like, this kid was, you know, he was kind of chunky. So I lifted this chunky kid above my head in the calmest yet most sinister way. I from what I remember and what my brother remembers, in the most sinister yet calm way, I said, "I can and will end your existence." I'd imagine that was Salem at the time, so that's one of the earlier memories that I have with my brother, or even, you know, with dealing with Salem and his gruffness. I don't really remember it all very well, but my brother does say, "Yeah, man, it was freaky." So, second story is from freshman year or so. Freshman or sophomore year, but most likely freshman year. And I remember this one because I was co-con, and I know what that means now. I don't remember all the things that were said in this experience, this occurrence, this moment in time, but I do remember that I took a back seat during it. I say take a back seat because I sort of, in my head, and I've explained this before, is how I imagine being co-con, or even the system in certain times, is like a van, where the person driving is the one who is fronting. Then co-con is whoever's riding, next to you, or riding co-pilot. So, and then everyone follows in suit behind, so it's like a van or a bus, depending on how many. But for me, it's a van. But I remember taking a seat and, like, kind of watching myself do this thing. It was very out of body. But basically what happened was I was talking to this fairly large group of, friends or people, like new people, and I felt like I needed to be the center of attention. So this is definitely Leah. I needed to be the center of attention, so I wanted to be relatable, I wanted to be funny, I wanted to be, likable. And usually that's not where I want to be, but in this moment, I needed to be. So, I started saying things that were relatable and funny and interesting and, like, things that I don't really know, like, I don't really care about, just sort of spouted out of my mouth, like, current things, like music or latest drama or whatever, just immediately popped out of my mouth. And I just said things, and people were like, yeah! My friends were just sort of shocked. My friends just, like, looked at me like, what? And I'm just saying things like that. I'm usually not like that. Usually when people first meet me, I'm actually kind of shy. And I'll just be like, yeah! And I'll start making weird noises or whatnot. But for this one, it was, just watching myself be super social, super friendly, super over the top, and very Leah. It's very Leah. So what I think in this moment, in this story, what happened is Leah sort of took the reins and wanted me to be more fun, more personable, because in middle school, I was not that. I was not as friendly or even that extroverted in middle school. In middle school, I was awkward, I was gross. It's a whole story I won't go into. This whole thing actually somehow landed me a date, which I think is a little weird, but this sort of extrovertedness that happened during that evening sort of carried on into a relationship, and somebody found I was very interesting until things started to slow down and I wasn't as interesting all the time and I wasn't saying all the right funny things or whatever. So that relationship did not end very well, actually. They cheated on me, but we won't go into that. Third story. The third story is the one that involves Owen. So this one was not my most proud moment or story, actually. So in my junior year, I think it was junior, I was under a lot of stress. I was, what with, my confusion of my sexuality, my gender, my grades and my family, just so many different things that were just so confusing in one year, in one semester, really. But anyway, during this time, I was also in numerous clubs and extracurricular activities. I was doing way too much. But one night, after a really, really long day of club meetings, practice for whatever sport, and yada yada, oh, my foot. My foot's asleep. Oh, this was supposed to be a very serious story. One night, after a really, really long day of stuff, I get home and my parents want to go through this whole talk of what's best for me. Typical parent yada yada stuff. So, I'm grateful. Obviously grateful. Something happened and it just blew out of proportion, and it involved yelling and screaming and I think crying, I'm not actually sure, but this tremendous fight kind of broke out, and I remember just taking, I don't remember exactly what happened, but I know now that it was a switch, because it went from me trying to really hold it together and try and hold this argument together and try and be passive about it, because I'm usually very passive when it comes to arguments. But in this moment, I went ballistic, shouting threats and really, really horrible stuff to my parents, you know, like these people that have raised me. And this unbridled anger and confusion just came out of me and just spouted onto my parents. And, yeah, so it's not my proudest moment, but usually Owen is pretty defensive and just wants to be independent, but in this moment, I guess it was a mix of feelings, and then it was just let out. What really gave it away as a switch or as anything involving OSDD now is that I didn't even look at my parents while I was doing these things. I wasn't even doing it, but, you know, eye contact was not happening. It was looking directly at the floor, at their shadows, like not being able to lift my head, like not being able to make eye contact, just direct staring at their shadows, shouting and yelling at the shadow, and then immediately a couple minutes after, you know, coming back or whatever, just moving my head and being like, what did I say? And these just profanities and whatnot are just hanging in the air, and yeah. Anyway, so these have been a couple of stories that on how I figured out I had OSDD/DID. I say the slash because it's now a tag on how I found out. All these stories are just kind of me looking back. And I know that these stories aren't the most wild. They're not the most crazy, like, definite, obvious DID, OSDD, but these are the ones that I remember the best, and the ones that, like, I'd have not proof, but I have confirmation that it did happen. Examples being my brother, my family, etc., etc. I think I probably have loads more, but I don't remember them very well, and maybe I won't ever remember them ever again. Anyway, thank you for stopping by this video. I really appreciate you guys, like, holding on and actually being able to watch my videos, even though I'm on the floor being lazy and not making videos recently. So I'm very sorry, but, you know, things have been crazy. Happy to be here. If you do have a suggestion for a video or some kind of idea or even a question about this video, definitely comment below. Usually I will answer. Fuck it, never mind. Fuck it, I'll answer if I need to. But yeah, thank you so much for coming by this video and for suggesting this video. Please do like, subscribe, you know, the whole deal. Happy New Year if I don't make a video soon enough. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day and rest of your week. I've missed you all, and I'll see you soon. See you in the next video. Adios, friends.